In this video, I'm going to show you how to set up and solve proportions by cross multiplying and dividing. So before we jump into this, we should probably know what a proportion is. And a proportion is an equation in a particular form. It's going to be fraction equals fraction. And there are many ways to set up a proportion, but to keep it consistent, I'm always going to set it up with my rate on the left and the numbers that I'm actually solving for in a question on the right. So this rate could be any number of things that compares two quantities. It could be kilometers per hour. It could be dollars per 100 grams. It could be dollars per hour that you're paying someone. It could be any number of things that compares two different quantities. And then the second side here is going to be actual numbers that you fill in for a question. So let's just jump in and do one. One simple way we use proportions is for unit conversion. So there are many ways of converting units, but unit conversion can always be set up as a proportion. So for unit conversions, you're always going to have some rate. So for instance, 2.54 centimeters is 1 inch. And so when we're setting up a proportion, we can set up our rate 2.54 centimeters per 1 inch as a fraction on the left-hand side of a proportion. And let's actually make this into a question. So let's say we want to convert 100 centimeters into inches. So then the numbers in our question then are 100 centimeters and some unknown number of inches. Now, the key to setting a proportion correctly is I've sort of arbitrarily put 2.54 centimeters up top. I could have put 2.54 centimeters underneath. It doesn't really matter, but since I've chosen to put centimeters up top, this one also has to be centimeters. And because inches are underneath, this one also has to be inches. So in general, these two things need to match, these two things need to match. And our left-hand side needs to match, that's our rate, and our right-hand side needs to match. Those are, these numbers, this quantity in question. So our 100 centimeters, we're going to fill in on the right, and we're going to have some unknown x number of inches. Now for this key idea, how do we actually solve these things? There are several ways, but the way to do it in one step is something called cross multiplying and dividing. And what you do is you're always going to have a variable in one corner of the equation and numbers in the other three spots. And so you can take this diagonal that does not contain your variable and multiply those two numbers and divide by whatever number is outside. So since our variable is down here, we cross multiply this way. If our variable happened to be up here, then we would have cross multiplied this way and divided by the thing in the other corner. So on our calculator, 100, well, times 1 doesn't really matter, but it's 100 times 1 divided by 2.54, and we get x is 39.3700 and so on. Let's say 39.4 inches, rounded to the nearest tenth. So another example of how we can use this, we can use proportions to solve anytime you've got a rate between two numbers. So for instance, if I know that $50 Canadian, 50 CAD, is worth, I just looked this up, right now it's worth $38.19 US. So knowing this conversion between Canadian dollars and US dollars, I can then convert any quantity between these two things. So let's say that I want to convert $320 Canadian to US dollars. So we can set this up as a proportion. On this one here, I did this number on the left up top, but just to show you it doesn't matter, I'm going to put this number up top in this question. So 38.19 USD, that's dollars, per 50 Canadian dollars. So this is my rate, and we're going to make that equal to a fraction. And then we're actually going to put the numbers for our question on this right-hand side. So since this is CAD, I need to choose to match in the same spot on our right-hand fraction. So this is Canadian dollars is underneath, so my 320 Canadian dollars also has to go underneath. And then our unknown goes in the top right, and in this case that is our unknown dollars USD. Now the way I set this up, since I put this up top and Canadian dollars underneath, it's worked out that to cross multiply and divide, our variable being up here means we're going to cross multiply on the side that does not have the variable. So we're going to need to multiply those two numbers and divide by this number. So in our calculators, we're going to do 38.19 times 320 divided by 50. And I've already done this before the video, of course. And it works out to 244.416. Now, it doesn't say in this question, but since it's money, we should pretty much always round money to the nearest penny. So this 6 is going to make it $244.42 US. All right, one more example. You can use this anytime you've got quantities, but sometimes you need to think about your quantities to make sure that your numbers make sense. So when I was a kid, my mom taught me that to make a salad dressing, a good salad dressing is going to be 3 parts oil to 1 part vinegar. So 3 parts oil to, the way we say use 2 in math is a colon, so 1 part vinegar. So what this means is for every 3 parts oil, you have 1 part vinegar. This essentially means, just right off the top, that we have a fraction of 3 oil to 1 vinegar. And so if I told you, we had 50 milliliters of vinegar, how much oil, well, we could just set that up quickly and solve. So let's say we had 50, let's set up a proportion first, 3 parts oil to 1 part vinegar. Okay, and we've got 50 mils of vinegar. How much oil? So we could, to set this up, cross multiply and divide 50 times 3 divided by 1, and we get that x is 150 mils. Okay, that's not a terribly interesting question, though. It's just, times 3. A more interesting question would be, let's say I know how much total dressing I want, right? So the salad dressing, I need 500 mils of dressing. How do I mix 500 mils of salad dressing knowing this ratio? So hopefully you've noticed I don't know how much oil and I don't know how much vinegar. So I can't fill in my unknown here for vinegar and I can't fill in my unknown here for oil. So the trick for solving this question is we're going to need to take our 3 parts oil and our 1 part vinegar and instead make a ratio to our total, which is 3 plus 1, which is 4 parts. So this means 3 oil to a total of 4, or 1 part vinegar to our 4 in total. So to solve this question of 500 mils of dressing, what we're going to need to do is set up this 3 to 4 parts total ratio, 3 oil to 4 total, and our total is 500 mils. And our unknown then goes in the top, which is going to be oil. So our 500 mils total to 4 parts, or it matches the 4 parts total in our ratio. 3 plus 1 is 4. Our 3 parts oil is going to match our unknown x, and we will cross multiply on the side that does not have our x, multiply those, divide by this, and we get that x is 375 milliliters of oil. Now the last step, we could set up this proportion again, 1 part vinegar to 4 parts total, but there's actually an easier way. We know there's 500 mils total. We've used up 375, so vinegar is obviously going to be everything else. So we can just use our power of subtraction to figure out how much vinegar we need. And sure enough, when you subtract, it's 125 milliliters of vinegar.